Shark and Teeny won 3 of the 6 matches in the Division Cup finals, winning the overall tournament. They had some very wacky strats like max splitting like this at their drop spot, playing insanely deep inside of the storm, and of course it wouldn't be a Chapter 7 tournament win without some balloon play. Now last week we looked at Sky and Scroll on my main channel video, and it was all about surge positioning and how, you know, if you pull zone you're in an advantage. Well, here's the first win from them, and unsurprisingly they landed at Wonky Land, one of the most successful POIs this year. And as you notice, or this chapter, sorry, zone pulls about as bad as it can be, right? Like this southeast zone for them is about as bad as it can get. And you can see how deep into the zone they already are. I think at one point they're all the way back here in this back left or top left corner when the zone pulls the bottom right. So, you know, they obviously have an interesting strat cooked up. They're doing a crazy split. Like Shark is looting all the way over here. Is that even necessary? Like, what does bro need at this point? Metal, maybe? Is there metal in this spot? I'll be honest, I didn't know this bit of the map even exists. Maybe they were like trying to third party Gearas's team if they ended up pushing in here. I genuinely did not know that this place even existed. So Shark has been sitting here on the right hand for about a minute. It's pretty early in the game. It's only first zone. Whilst Teeny's still getting stacked. He's not even got a shotgun yet. I don't know. You know, they're splitting all the way across the map. Like, surely Teeny could get easily lurked on by Malabuka here. Obviously, Shark's keeping awareness over here. He seems to be moving now. What's he cooking up? No, still just sitting in the corner. I guess there's just fast harvesting melee here. The problem with Wonky Land is that some of the mats are very slow there. So I guess by Shark going over here, A, he gets more loot. B, he gets good fasting harvesting materials. But C, he also gets the opportunity to actually sneak up. And although Teeny is pretty split from him, being all the way over here, which is insane, at least they keep away from like any other team and they're not going to actually get any like surge damage kind of negative on their net, if that makes sense. So yeah, Shark was pretty quickly able to get cat mats, well, cat metal from that at least. I don't know about the brick yet. And then a little bit of extra loot too. So now entering the second zone, we have Teeny. So at this point, Teeny's taken less storm damage. So he only entered the zone at second. So if later they want to play storm in endgame, Teeny can, but Shark can't, because I think Shark will get sickness before Teeny will. So they seem to be countering what seems to be Gearas's strat here. Yes, Shark missed literally every bullet. That is not great, I'll be honest. But it seems like Gearas's strat was to come and sneak back in here. This is a kind of classic Teeny strat style. Camp on someone who's landing around you. It's pretty good. It didn't work at all because they got literally no damage. Yeah, 0. That's, well, now they've got a little of this, and Shark actually took some, so that's kind of unfortunate. But the idea was there. As basically, he seems to have like completely cut off the metal, because Gearas has now no mats, and Sined has some from this roof, so he is actually able to get some. So maybe not, because Tip Top has a lot on this roof, which I did not actually know. Weapons-wise, they've both managed to get gold. Shark has this TAC AR, which, as you know, is absolutely rips. And then Teeny, it's interesting Teeny is the one who's playing this AR, because you would think that Teeny being a controller player, if they need surge, you know, you'd give that to Shark instead, because it's going to be easier for him to hit shots at range with it. So interesting he ends up taking that. Shark and a lot of other players since have been using the Flex SMG, I should also add, which I'll make a short about on my main channel at some point this week too. So basically at the third zone, zone 3, they are 0 on surge right now. So they've taken the same amount of damage as they've dealt during that storm play. And then again, similar to most strats, infinite gold. Now you can buy med kits from the mending machines. So they're going to, what, 3 for Shark? How many does Teeny have? Teeny already has 3. Probably buy like an extra one. They have so many that they can use. I don't know if they're going to juggle them quite like we've been seeing everyone else, but there's the zone popped as far as it can be. Still a 1 tech. They've got 3 med kits. I imagine now's probably the time just to get in and go. I stumbled across this, which is very interesting. It looks a little strange looking all the way deep in, but this is actually a really good strategy by Vico and Malabuka. That what they're doing here is they're building this massive big base. As you can see, this huge ramp which goes all the way up, chucking med kits up on top of this as well. Very, very, very smart, as we can see. They were looking at it. I don't know if they're trying to like spray it out yet or not. Essentially, the higher you go with the wingsuit, the easier your rotation is. So by using this mountain, this is the tallest mountain on the entire map, as you can see if I can scroll all the way around, building like a huge base up onto height, they can then just use a wingsuit from up here and fly all the way into storm. It's kind of like the same ways when there was that pad bug where you could use the pad to fly like really high into the sky, the Kostenanok strat. But instead, Vico and Malabuka can use this. Imagine they're then just going to use their wingsuits and then fly straight into a zone. Really, really good strat from their drop, actually. Like insanely good from the drop. So you can see now that by the time Malabuka's done this, right? I know this is a Teenage Shark VOD review, but this is a cool strat. They're so high up. Like, I don't know if they're probably over the 250 meter mark. I actually don't know how high up they are. So like they're almost out of render distance from being so high up here. So for even, you know, you saw Teeny who was around looking at them. Let's see, can they even really spot them realistically? Probably not from what they're doing. And now Teeny and Shark do something very similar here. So they're on top of the balloon, which again was very similar to the strat that we saw Sky and Scroll do. So you know, the balloons rotate in this order. So being on top of this balloon here means they're going to come out here. So they can rotate whilst popping their medkits on this. And then at this point, I imagine they're then going to use them to fly high up into the sky, similar to Malabuka's team is here, because they're going to be higher on the, you know, on top of this balloon. Fly up. Go crazy. Good description. I understand. Now you can see Teeny's watching that direction to see where they're going to rotate from, but they've already gone and they didn't spot them out of the sky as they did it. All right, zone is now a 2-tick. The 5th zone's appeared. So the partial pulls to them as well, which in this case is pretty favorable because obviously they're on top of the balloon. So they can just start popping their medkits. Now, yep, start popping the medkits. Now they use the wingsuit. And I imagine see, look how high up they are doing this. So, you know, there is players in Storm around them. You can see like moneymakers below them, for example. But if you look up, I mean, actually I could turn the distances on. Let's see. Here's a trick, by the way, in replay mode to figure out distances, because you can't mark to find a little marker. If you open up this, you put the off arrow to 300. So these arrows are 300 away. Now change the arrow distance. I can see that Shark and Teeny are now 180 meters away. So I was wrong. They're not over 270. I think 275, whatever is something around that is the render distance. So they're 180 meters away. So they are actually in render distance of these guys, but they're like right below them. So from this point here, this is 275, right? When they're appearing. And if you notice on the map where my camera is positioned right now, which is here, there's very few people who can see them as they're doing this rotate. So from here, like here to here is 275. So really Cringe can see them. Moneymaker can see them. Maybe Werix can. None of these players can whatsoever, right? So, you know, from their position, if they can very, very freely rotate into like, you know, this point, which is like a nice hill, I think, they have great access to any rotations without really being seen at all because they were so high. And as you notice, Vico Malabuka also decided to go center zone. Very, very good spot. You can see they're dropping down, landing a nice point in Storm. Center 5th zone. Absolutely beautiful. Pretty much still cat mats. Already building on to height. They've got a med kit they can pop each, so they can still be 200 HP as well. And if they want to, there's the mending machine underneath them as well. So yep, now the spare inventory slot. Shark goes down for the spare 3 bigs, which is huge. Is he going to camp on Moneymaker here too? No, they're not, basically. The Shark there also bought 3 more med kits and threw them up to Teeny, which means that like because he's not taken as much Storm, like Teeny's been in zone for, I think he probably took like 300 damage there, if I was looking that up correctly, which means he could still play 3 med kits in the end game. This season, the main thing I'm seeing, you know, from both the 2 most successful teams, Sky and Scroll, now Teeny and Shark, is it just finding some strat to get center 5th zone with cat mats. Obviously, have a good early and mid game. No surprise, right? But every time I see a team complaining about, you know, oh, this meta sucks or whatever, they are never in a good spot 5th zone. Right now from here, sure, they're not too much above surge, but they can get a bunch of tags on people rotating, and every rotate for them from here on should be easy, right? One of the main ways I see people die is on this 6th zone. If they pull a max 6th zone and then they have to try and wingsuit or something like that and just die out of the sky, by being in the center of 5th already, they don't need to wingsuit. They can just run in if they absolutely need to and just use a little bit of the mats that they've saved prior to that. So they basically lower the risk as much as possible. They are going to opt to use the wingsuit, though, which is interesting, because I thought that's a high-risk play at this kind of point to die out of the sky. Let's see. Insta drop down. Don't take a tick of damage. All right, I've watched ahead, and there's actually something very interesting I want to show you about the priority of every one of their rotates. So they use the wingsuit here, and where they land is, again, not right at the edge. It's not super deep into the zone by any means, but it's like, you know, a third of the way in here. You can see they're here. All the other players are around here. And you can see the next zone pulls fully north. So for them, you know, they're here in this position, and they've got to go all the way up. That's them in this little box here. You can see all the other arrows behind. I've tried to set this up with arrows so it's actually easier to see and less messy. They're the purple team in the front here, you see. But because they have a higher priority, everyone behind them now has to sit and use their wingsuits way earlier. So everyone's flying up, everyone's flying up, everyone's flying up. And now you can see them at the front also going. But because of this, firstly, no one shoots them on this rotate at all because they're already busy shooting other people. But this also allows the 7th zone to open up a little bit more, which makes them able to do this entire rotate in one single wingsuit rather than doing it in like 1.5. 7th zone, you can usually do that, but it's fine. But if you also notice, it's not that they've just got in. Yet again, they've gotten into a deeper position here, right? They're as deep as they possibly can be here. They're yet again in another higher priority position because they've tarped a little bit further. I'm going to spoil where the next zone pulls, by the way. It's going to pull up to the north here, and you'll notice that because they're in the center, TD's already scouting, already waiting to go, already got the edit held in case it pulls max. You can just jump, use a little bit of wood, cover his sides, and then already get to the front side without using basically any materials at all. Well, he uses some wood, you know what I mean though. Now he can establish height on this front side, and everyone else is going to use their wingsuits, but for them, they can just spray everyone out of the sky. And they've already got like a nice high layer. He manages to get the first knock onto Ricky as well, gets the body. Obviously, he's not going to get the loot from that. And now they have the freest height claim just because they had nice priority on like 2 rotations earlier than that. All right, so if you think of our zone, something like this is the 5th zone, by the way. The one I said it was very important that they got center in where they played the storm too. So say they were like around the center of the 5th zone like this here. They went from this point, and then rather than going to the edge, here would be bad, they went to like here, so they were much deeper in. Then in the 6th zone, when the 7th zone popped up, obviously in the actual game it was up to the north, but just for this example, I'm doing it like this. They then flew as deep as they could into the midpoint yet again. And then that allowed them to go straight here to get to this zone first as well. So the fact that they were just basically always in the center of every single zone allowed them to get the priority to get into the next one, whilst doing it in a single rotate as cleanly as they possibly could. Now imagine a lot of this game from here is just going to be height shenanigans. And obviously their weapon choice from earlier, one having an AR, one having the combat SMG. Tactical AR, I always call it the wrong thing. Tactical AR means they have the most ammo possible on height, kind of standard stuff. Literally the entire end game until this point, I've just been staying on height and spraying, and then they dropped out at the final line. So let's look at one of the other games. So the second game they won was slightly different for them. As you can see, the zone pulls... Oh, I'm going the wrong way. Pulls to the west, which is pretty favorable for them. As you can see, they're going to play Storm yet again from this. So let's see kind of how they do this slightly differently. Actually, firstly, before I go into the actual match, it's important to note that they don't do the sneak play over here again. I wonder how many games they did it in. Maybe they did it successfully in game 1 or something, and then, you know, they tried it in game 2, which is the one we watched before, but it doesn't seem like they're doing that every single match. All right, so this game is slightly different. They were still playing Storm, but this time they're rotating all the way west using wingsuits. Still in. They have 6 medkits each yet again. Now, I'll be honest, this is a generational zone pull for them. Being deep into this corner and pulling the 6th zone here. I don't know. You know what? Fair enough. Sometimes you just get a good pull. The wingsuit in. I don't really know what the plan would have been had the zone pulled max from this position though. Because like, it's a 5-tick, so it is obviously tough to play medkits. That you've got to pop them when you're at 50 HP. I guess they were maybe just trying to get away from the congestion of all the players here. Are they zone hacking? Oh my god, they're zone hacking, guys. That's why they won this tournament. Nah, it's just lucky pull, but unsurprisingly, yet again, staying away from everyone gets you... I mean, you don't need to deal much damage because it's net surge now. And having good mats going into partials is basically a free win. All right, they're then not so lucky with his zone pool, fully maxed, but because they've come from the dead side and they know where it opened up, if you remember, it was like this. They can now wrap all the way around and then try, you know, sneak in here. Journey might be the big problem. He's right in their way, but they've basically made a free rotate all the way around this way, and they're already wrapping around, which is great. Same as like the previous match, basically just an instant rotate. All right, there goes Journey starting to shoot them. So a couple builds in front of him to protect himself. You can do the, I was going to say the Robin Hood strat. What's it called? The Tarzan strat. There you go. Tree to tree. Use some wood, refarm, repeat, rotate in. As long as they don't stay here for too long, they're absolutely fine. Because the only problem is the team will probably come behind them, which as you can see is Cammy and Harry right now. So they might get tagged in the back if you spend too long doing this. But yeah, they've pretty much used nothing and taken absolutely no damage whilst doing it, just because they've reharvested a little bit. Also like the little bit of elevation they've got up here, because from this position, they're not stuck in the congestion down below. People aren't going to build on top of them. And then they have a free rotate with the wingsuits afterwards. All right, again, we have another very smart rotate from TD. Unfortunately, just unscouted the cone as I was about to say that. But you can see he's spotted ahead. He's looking ahead of him to see what's going where. And my controller's died, but now I've turned it back on. And he sees that zone is pulling into this tree area. And there's already one of these early surge bases. Now, this is from Gearas's team, I think, earlier in the game, who, you know, he was trying to grief in one of the earlier matches over in the corner. They've been doing stuff like this. So you can build off of these trees and you can connect to them. So he's scouted already from this cone here that that's going to be a possibility. So he already knows he wants to go and take height. Now, remember, because of the way they played Storm, Shark is still carrying 2 medkits. They don't play it all the way to sickness. And what's funny there is you can see that now Shark is the one scouting through this, right? So Teeny has literally said to him, look, literally look at what's going on here. So they both know the play. They both know what they're trying to do. They both know where they need to land. They planned ahead of time, which is really good. Now they've created the box to fly out from, and they don't wait until the last minute, right? Other players in this lobby are going to spot that too. So if you notice, like a lot of players, when they were going to rotate, they would wait until like Storm hits them right on their back. But here they take this very early. They scout ahead of them. They see Height is shooting. They wait until Height starts shooting someone else, and then they're about to hit it. I'm stalling because I thought they did this slightly earlier. There you go. Now they go. They see Height shooting someone. Finally, they get a little bit of server lag. And they fly away up. Again, that wasn't when the zone was right at their back. They didn't wait till like the final last second. They did it quite early whilst Height was distracted, which is the only team that's actually going to shoot them. And then, because they both planned this, they both know what they're already doing, they can land straight up on Height and then claim it straight away. I'll be honest, this is a non-recoverable from Yapko. You can't get out with this one. Shark drops down, hits the bang, double edits, hits the full piece, tracks Panzer 2, hits the exit control, hits him in the 60, doubles. I love how he swings to the left here as he was doubling, by the way, just to not fall in, right? He didn't just jump in the box. He stayed above. Bang! Yapko dead. Doesn't even greed for the body because he knows the Panzer's there too. So unfortunately, he doesn't get the refresh on that, but he gets shot in the back and then it just drops. This is one of the things they do very, very frequently. This is very similar to like the Queasy Veno strat back from like chapter 4, where it comes to the final zone, you've got one on height, like teeny all the way up in height, and you're like, right, drop one player down to be always what I used to call the disruptor. So, you know, they didn't get many elims right now. 0 on TD for the whole game, 1 on Shark. But now basically Shark is down, disrupting anyone who looks stacked, keying people getting damage on them, and if anyone's obviously going to play heal off, which, you know, I don't know if this is going to go down to or whatnot, you have him to disrupt them, hit them white health, cancel med kits, things like that of that nature too. Nah, bro, Werix thought he was about to go crazy here. Ramp flip? Nah, he's dead. Now, it's actually a very interesting play that Shark does here now that it's a 2v2. So it's him against Thomas HD and Focus on low. So if you notice, they've got pretty minimal, no, not minimal mass. They have mats. I take that back. They've got good HP. They're scouting what's in the storm, see where it's going. So he starts to drop down here. As you notice, as he gets out of this kind of awkward layer, he claims cones ahead here, which is the 2 on this side, and there. And then he jumps up a layer. And I think my theory here is that in this instance, what the other team is either going to do is they're going to see the doubles that have been placed there. I actually think maybe he didn't place the floors. Now look at it. And they're either going to try and come up or they're going to drop down. So you kind of force them off of the layer. And now it looks like Shark can kind of drop around the edge as they're distracted. And then kind of do nothing, to be honest. He didn't do shit all after that. He kind of melt. But TD drops down the backside, so they get a nice pinch in. Being spraying. That's Focus dead. Shark is about to go down, so he gets the siphon first. Basically, TD's what? Just pickaxing, swinging, getting in, pumps. And a very rare miss from Thomas HD, I must say there. Shaken in the final end game. Yeah, not a huge, like, I mean, to me, I didn't see anything super special in the final end of that, but really nice scouting just to take height in this game in particular. All right, we have a very similar East Zone in the final game that they won here. As you notice, they don't go and play the odd Storm strat again. So that was something they did in like 1 or 2 matches towards the start of the tournament. Didn't actually camp on them the whole game here. I'm gonna see, they didn't even stay this deep in Storm. I have lost them. Where are they? They're there. Now, what's interesting here is they play this completely differently, right? This is the 5th match and their 3rd win total. Now, they're pretty far ahead of 2nd place, if I remember how many points they had. If I look on the leaderboard, you know, 40 points ahead. They could get keyed by a Focus's team who's down here. You know, if they decide to stay in the Storm, for example, for a long time, they could get lurked up on or something like that. I don't know if that's why they decide to leave so early. I'm not 100%, but they did not play the same strat at all, and they've just basically started to book it as early as they can to center zone. Now, it's interesting though, because they're still doing a very similar rotate, right? They're not in the Storm, but they're still going to use the balloon, right? They use the, what you call it, wingsuit to fly on top of the balloon. I don't think they have any meds this time. They got double chug jug from the stupidly overpowered thing in Wonky Land, the Kovacs minigame. I mean, they're entirely stacked. Like, there's not really any good reason for them to play Storm at this minute. And this will get them to this position, which is fully center second, right? So basically, they have free rotate to the center second zone, where I think no one should be able to shoot them. I'm guessing no one should be able to, just as long as they stay on like the right side of the balloon. You can see they're kind of like rotating around to the side. So this balloon strat, you know, it basically won 2 weeks in a row, which is kind of crazy. Now, my question is, the real thought process I have here is, will Surge Towers evolve, right? So say, for example, you know, would someone have a Surge Tower on this hill that would be high enough to see anyone who's doing the balloon strat, right? You'd have to be like pretty high up just to scout if there's going to be anyone at all rotating like on top of the balloons. And then you could pretty much entirely cancel it. Like this one from Asa and Bosa is pretty high, but if I zoom over, like you're not tagging them, let's be real. And they've even got like a pretty good peak from there. You're just not going to be able to do that. And I guess this is probably one of the only hills you'd actually be able to do it on, because you'd have to build way too high on this one. Outside of actually maybe when the balloon starts to drop here, I guess, because it does start to go down. So if you built on this way higher, you might be able to counter someone doing this strat. Oh, it goes even higher. Oh my god, I didn't realize it goes even higher up to this point. It's actually raised up here as it's gone along. When's it at its peak? So, okay, oh my, yeah, you would need to build insanely high to get past this, right? That's at its peak height here. So like there's no way you'd be able to build a Surge Tower that would be this tall at this point. Like you'd waste so many materials. I don't know if there's, I mean, maybe you could build it at like a massive god brick, but you'd probably just end up getting chopped by someone else. And this actually allows, I wonder if Shark and Tina are just going to spray them off then, because that could be like free damage then. Yeah, look at this. Imagine you're in a Surge Tower thinking you're chilling. And you get hit for 100. Like, what? Like, oh my god, they're on the balloon shooting me. That's crazy. Now they're in this position. They're as high as they can be. I wonder if I probably would have waited there. I don't know. They have 30 seconds to find out where 4th zone is. Maybe it would have made more sense to stay up. I don't know where would the balloon have even been then? I was going to say, because then they could have gone like center 4th instead of right now. They're just, you know, landing center 3rd, boxing up in a good spot. Like the freest rotate of all time. That's actually genuinely really, like the balloon strat is very, very, very good. I'm wondering, like I said, how we would have waited. Yeah, because like they would have been here. Let me see if that would have been as good, right? Now they could have seen where, oh no, sorry. I'm absolutely stupid. I just realized that's not even the right zone transition. Ignore what I was going to say there. All right, this end game and this height take is really nice. It's like a combination of the first two matches that we've already seen. So they fly, good zone priority, yet again, get into the center of 7th, right? You can see as I zoom in, they're deep in. They're not at the edge. They're not in this kind of stinky position. They're deep into storm. And TD like tarps them way deep, like even further. Like if I zoom in even more, he's taking him from here, which is right next to everyone, to even like further away, like full dead side. Yet again, setting up for the same kind of like early rotate if they need to. This is what it looks like just for reference where they are. They're all the way back there, as deep as can be, away from everyone else, whereas the entire lobby is just kind of congested next to each other right here. One of the main reasons I want to talk about for this is just the options it gives them. So it's like the best statistical chance they have. If zone pulls back, not great, because you have the entire lobby to work through and they can all look and spray you, but they have like enough tarp to make themselves like, I don't know. To be honest, if zone pulls that way, I don't know what I'd do in that scenario. Also, a side note here, unsurprising, Thomas and Focus, who came second, are also in a very similar position. However, if zone pulls this direction, I mean, they have a free rotate. If zone pulls this direction, they have a pretty free rotate. If it pulls this direction, they're first. So they put themselves in a position that gives them the highest probability of like having a free rotate. All right, teeny scouting, zone pulls, bosh, to their south, and then they can just sprint all the way around the hill. They don't even like need to really build to get there at all. Then they have a nice box from here, and yet again, like Teeny's scouting ahead. Look, he looks, and that right there that he's just scouted through the cone, whoosh, is their old surge base that they went on. Very, very conveniently, their old base. They have all the edits there, and you can kind of figure out exactly what the strat's going to be based on what the previous game was. They don't wait till the last second. They take a pretty early rotate into the storm. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 ticks of storm before they start popping, and then they both have the chug jugs. Shark goes ahead and starts connecting them in. They built all the way up, and now they've connected, and they have height. I basically skipped to the end because similar to the game before, it was just playing on height and spraying. You know, there's not. I'm not gonna say there's not a lot of complexity to holding height. There is, but I've talked about it in so many videos, I'm not going to bother. Shark down or low, 2v2 in the final match. Hitting bangs on the Zynock, or truly, that's him down. I like here, also very important. Do you see how he swung so far to the left here when it's just his final 1v1 whilst holding his pump out? That means Zynox couldn't make a single good edit. You just sit reloading, and there's nothing they can do to win the final match. 3 for 6, kind of insane. The two teams that we've got that are going the craziest right now are Shark and TD and Sky and Scroll. And I don't think it's a coincidence that both of them didn't qualify for globals last year. You know, maybe there's just the comeback season for both of them. Like, subscribe, catch you later. Peace.